Hi, how are you? Welcome to the Etiquette and Protocol channel. I'm Juliana Santiago, and in today's video, we're going to talk a little more about fondue etiquette. Cold weather is coming, and sometimes we feel unsure, right? About how to eat fondue, how to set up a table so you can have a fondue night at home, how to properly prepare a fondue night. So I've put together some important points here so we can talk a little more about fondue etiquette, how to eat fondue. And I'm sure you're going to really enjoy this content, so make sure to watch until the end. And if you're new to the channel, like this video and subscribe here to the Etiquette and Protocol channel. We have videos here every week for you, so make sure to check them out. So let's get to the important points about fondue. The first thing you'll notice is that we have a few different types of fondue sets, right? Fondue machines. The first one is the one with the burner option, where you put the flame underneath and then we have the pot, right? Or sometimes a stone on top. And we also have the electric fondue where you can just plug it in and there's no need to make that little flame with the burner. The materials of our fondue set can be stainless steel, they can be ceramic, or they can also be stone. It's very common in the South, right? That stone fondue, especially for serving meat fondue. So we have various ways and options to present our fondue. What should you pay attention to when you're preparing a fondue night or hosting a fondue gathering? To create a complete experience serving only fondue, you do need to have more than one fondue set. So you'll need one set to serve meat fondue, one set to serve cheese fondue, and one set to serve dessert fondue. Each is presented in a different setting. Unfortunately, you can't use the cheese fondue set, wash it, then use it for meat fondue, wash it again, and use it for dessert fondue. So that's going to give you a lot of work. So ideally, you should have a set for each specific course. Of course, you don't need to have that in your collection, in your house. You can borrow one from someone or even rent a fondue set. We already have that option now, but only if you like it, right? And you always want to have a fondue night on occasions like this. It's worth considering. Think about it. Then, you might even consider buying fondue sets to use in this context. Ideally, you should have one set to serve a group of up to 4 people, especially at rectangular tables, because if you have more people at the table for one fondue set, everyone will have to keep passing the little fork, right? The one that usually comes with the set that we use to eat, passing it right in front of someone else's face. So that's not pleasant, you know. It's not classy and it's really annoying for the other person. So it's much more about that than just being classy, right? The etiquette of eating fondue won't set standards for you to stick your fork in someone else's face because that's very uncomfortable for the other person. So ideally, you should work with each group of 4 people, one fondue set. Of course, this also depends on the size of your fondue set, right? Here, is this usually the standard? I'm working with a conventional fondue set, but we also have those mini fondue sets. I even have one myself that's really only enough for 2 people, right? Sometimes it's even individual, just for one person. So it's not ideal for a very large group because it can end up leaving very little space. And it's also worth paying attention to the shape you have there on your table. Sometimes, for example, you have a round table, and then with a round table, you can even share a fondue pot with more people, sometimes even with 6 people. You can do it. So this metric here is just for you to use as a reference and to notice that, unfortunately, you won't be able to share the same machine with several people. But of course, you have to study the environment you have inside your home in the place where you're going to prepare your fondue night. Some people have doubts about whether we can actually have a night serving only fondue. And yes, we can, right? The ideal thing in this case is for you to prepare a complete menu that will really satisfy your guest. So the ideal is for you to work on that. First a cheese fondue, then a meat fondue, and after that a sweet fondue, the cheese fondue. It can be served with bread, so we make that cheese mixture, you know, the actual fondue. And as a side, we use bread or vegetables to dip in the cheese, right? Broccoli, carrots, lots of people like those, cauliflower, even zucchini. Some people really enjoy it and it can be an interesting option. As for meat fondue, you can serve not only beef, but also fish, chicken, pork. You can even create a varied menu. What do I recommend when you're preparing a fondue night, right? Specifically for fondue, when you're about to serve it, the meat fondue is organize some little sauces there to go with your meat and make sure they're not sauces that usually go with cheese. For example, gorgonzola sauce isn't very interesting for fondue night since you've already served cheese fondue, so there will just be another cheese sauce. That can get a little repetitive. So I recommend, for example, pesto sauce, barbecue sauce, sometimes chimichurri sauce. It's those little sauces and seasonings, different ones that you can even create yourself. Or find a recipe online and try it. Honey mustard sauce will also taste really good. You can have a variety there to season the meat. It works really well. In the case of the chocolate fondue, you can serve several options like white chocolate. You can make a milk fondue, ninho. You can use your creativity. But what do we use to go with it, right? To dip in there. Usually it's candies, sometimes marshmallows. A lot of people like them. And fruits are, in my opinion, the best choice. And then you can have different fruits according to your preference. Banana is really good, grapes, strawberries. Kiwi, mango, anyway, including those. Comment here how you like to eat your fondue. What's your recipe, your variation, the sauce, the seasoning you like to serve the most. Your fondue here, comment below. We can share experiences since the cold is coming and it's the perfect time to make fondue at home. Another question that might come up is about some other food you might serve at an exclusive gathering. Like fondue, right? Some people feel a bit unsure since there will be cheese fondue, there will be meat fondue, and then there will be sweet fondue afterwards. If you can serve some side dishes, yes you can. I really recommend serving sometimes some potatoes, some roasted potatoes can be really good. Again, I'm going to recommend not serving side dishes, especially those with a cheese base, because otherwise it will get very repetitive. So you can use your creativity when it's time for the meat fondue to serve some side dish. You can make a special rice anyway, it's up to you. Personally, I really like those tiny potatoes. I think they go really well with meat fondue. This is when we serve a carbohydrate to add variety to the menu. Now it's time for us to really understand how to eat, right? The fondue. So yes, you will need your fondue set, which usually comes with the fondue forks. And these forks are not used to bring the food to our mouth, so they're not what we used to eat directly. We use this fork to put the food on our plate, and with our individual cutlery that's set on the table, we eat and use that to bring the food to our mouth. So, why can't we take the fondue directly from the pot and put it in our mouth? Because it wouldn't be hygienic for us to share that utensil with other people, right? Just imagine, everyone goes there and puts it in. Everyone goes there and puts it in. Some people argue, right, that we can, yes, use the fork directly and put it straight into our mouths. Because sometimes we're not going to touch it, we're not going to grab it, we're not going to rest our mouths on it. There, on the fondue fork. But that's really hard to control, right? Picture yourself at the table with others. Some try it, some don't. So, for safety, the ideal is that you use the fondue fork as a support to bring the piece of fondue directly to your plate. And there, with your fork and knife, you bring it to your mouth. Another thing that's also very important for us to mention about fondue etiquette is that we can't do a double dip. For example, you go there, dip your bread in the cheese fondue, then you take it and put it in your mouth, and then you want to dip that same little piece again in the fondue pot. That's not appropriate due to hygiene reasons. Many people have trouble, especially with fondue, because it drips. You go there and it keeps dripping until you put it on your plate. You might ask, Juliana, how am I going to do this? How am I going to handle this process? Well, it's very simple. You just need to, when you dip with your fork inside the cheese fondue, or the sweet fondue. Especially, that's where this can happen. You twist it, give it a little turn, because that will really prevent those possible drips, like with the cheese fondue mixture and the sweet fondue mixture. They're thick. Can you do it? When you make this little twisting motion, you don't need to do it a lot at once because there's no need. But by twisting it gently, you'll already stop those possible first drops that might fall. So calmly direct that piece with your fondue fork straight to your plate. And you who are still here with me, take the opportunity to follow us on Etiquette and Protocol social media as well. There, I share a lot more content, especially on Instagram. I'm always sharing extra content that I'm sure will help you learn so much more. And don't forget to check out the official website of our school, which is the Etiquette and Protocol Institute. All the links are right here in the description. So what can you find in the description? Do you have questions about how to set a table or how you would create a table setting for a fondue night? What I recommend is that you use dessert plates. There's no need to use serving plates. Of course, if you have a preference, you can use them as well. But you can use dessert plates, and if you choose to serve your fondue using dessert plates, provide dessert cutlery. And then you will set the table as usual using glasses, cloth napkins, and paper napkins. That's up to you depending on the context of your gathering. And how are you going to create the setup for your special moment for your fondue night? And I know you might have doubts when you're planning a fondue night. What kind of glass should you use? Wine glasses, water glasses? What should you put together to create a beautiful table setting? And I'm going to recommend this video here on the side, which is a video about glasses. It's a guide to glasses that I've already made here on the channel, and it will definitely add a lot to your knowledge on this subject. Be sure to check it out and see you next week with new content. See you.